He once believed that life was a steady bridge, built from every success, every moment of control, every plan that worked exactly as imagined. He walked across it with pride, certain the path beneath his feet would never break. But that was before the wind came, before the ground beneath him gave way, and the bridge he trusted collapsed without warning. The fall wasn't just about wood and stone. It was about the silent crumble of certainty. One day, everything looked strong. The next, it was gone. He didn't even remember the sound, only the quiet after the crash. He stood on the edge of what used to be his future, staring at the empty space that once connected him to everything he thought he was. He had built that bridge with discipline, with long nights, with dreams that never slept. But now, all he could see was the wreckage, hanging ropes, broken beams, the echo of effort that used to matter. People passed by and looked at him with that strange mix of pity and relief. Pity because he'd lost everything. Relief because they hadn't. But no one could see what really broke. It wasn't the bridge. It was him. He stopped moving. Days became nights, and nights blurred into silence. He replayed every decision, every small mistake that might have led to the collapse. He whispered the word failure until it no longer sounded like a word, only a sentence. Once he had a rhythm to his mornings, the whistle of the kettle, the steady sound of footsteps toward his work. But now, mornings felt like reminders. The light hit the ruins of his bridge the same way it used to, but he couldn't look at it anymore. The sight of it burned. He tried to hide his defeat behind small smiles and short words. But inside, everything was dust. Every thought began with what if, and ended with too late. Then came the first rain after the collapse. The sky opened up like it was weeping for him. The water ran through the cracks, washing away pieces of the bridge that still clung to the edges. He stood there, drenched, watching his past dissolve. And something inside him whispered, maybe this is how healing begins. Not by fixing what broke, but by letting it wash away. But he didn't listen yet. Not fully. Pain has a way of pretending to be truth. And for now, the truth he believed in was simple. He had fallen, and there was no way back. Still, somewhere deep beneath the silence, a new question was forming, not about what he lost, but about who he might become when he stopped trying to rebuild the same bridge. And that question was waiting for him on the other side of the storm. In the weeks that followed, the world around him kept moving, but he stayed still. The broken bridge became part of the landscape, and so did he. People stopped asking what happened. The noise faded, and all that remained was quiet, the kind that makes you hear your own heartbeat, your own regret, your own questions echoing inside. He walked near the ruins every morning, not to fix them, but to remember. The air smelled like rust and rain. Each plank that had once held his weight now lay scattered across the ground like unfinished thoughts. It was strange how something once so strong could now look so fragile. In that silence, he noticed things he had never seen before. The way sunlight touched the surface of the river below, the small plants growing between the cracks of stone. Life was still happening, not waiting for him to heal, not asking for permission to continue. It just moved on. And for the first time, he wondered if maybe he could, too. One evening, an old traveler stopped by the broken edge. He didn't say much, just stared at the distance. Then he placed a small lantern on one of the fallen beams and whispered something before leaving, something the man almost didn't hear. The bridge was never the point. The crossing was. Those words stayed. They followed him into the night, like quiet footsteps in his mind. Maybe he'd built that bridge not to reach somewhere, but to prove he could. Maybe he'd been walking toward pride, not purpose. And when pride fell, purpose had nowhere to stand. The silence began to change after that. It stopped feeling empty. It started feeling sacred, a space for reflection, not punishment. He no longer rushed to rebuild, because he began to see that not every fall demands fixing, some require understanding. He started writing again, just small notes on torn paper about how things break, about how they heal, about the strength it takes to start over. He didn't share them with anyone. He just folded them, placed them under stones by the river, and watched the wind carry the words away. One morning, as he stood where the bridge used to begin, he realized something had shifted inside him. The pain was still there, but it wasn't in control anymore. It had softened into memory, a scar that no longer bled. He didn't have a plan yet, or tools, or help, but he had peace, the kind that comes when you stop asking why me and start asking what now. The bridge was gone, but his will was not, and that was enough to begin again differently this time, because now he knew. Sometimes silence doesn't mean the end. Sometimes it's the space where strength begins to whisper. The morning he decided to rebuild. There was no thunder, no applause, no sudden light, just a quiet nod to himself, and a deep breath that felt heavier than usual, the kind of breath you take before stepping back into life. He looked at the ruins one last time, not with sorrow anymore, but with a strange kind of gratitude. Those broken pieces had taught him what perfection never could. He began with small steps, one plank at a time, one nail at a time. He didn't hurry. He no longer built to prove his worth, he built to learn patience. Each sound of the hammer was like a heartbeat, steady, real. He wasn't chasing the man he used to be, he was meeting the man he was becoming. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, something new started to rise where the bridge once stood. It didn't look the same, the lines weren't as perfect, the wood wasn't as smooth, but it was stronger, because this time, he built it with truth, not pride. Sometimes, he stopped halfway through and just sat down, watching the river flow beneath. It didn't bother him anymore that the water had carried away his past. The current looked beautiful, now alive, honest, unstoppable, just like the process of healing. One afternoon, as he tightened the final bolt, he realized he didn't need to cross the bridge right away. He had already crossed something far more difficult himself. The doubt, the shame, the fear of beginning again, all of it had been the real journey. When he finally took that first step onto the new bridge, the wood felt warm beneath his feet. The wind brushed against his face, but this time, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a companion. The world hadn't changed, he had. The collapse that once felt like the end was now the start of something purer, something earned. That night, as stars gathered above the quiet water, he whispered a small truth to himself, not as a prayer, but as a promise. You don't have to rebuild what broke. You only have to rebuild yourself. Moral code, the bridge within number 1. What collapses outside you is only a reflection of what's waiting to be rebuilt inside you. Number 2, strength isn't loud. It's the quiet decision to stand up again. Number 3, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the soil where wisdom grows. Number 4, the bridge you build after the fall will never look the same, and that's what makes it beautiful. Number 5, don't rush to rebuild what life removes. Some ruins are meant to teach, not to fix. Number 6, you are not your collapse. You are the calm that rises after it. And when the bridge finally stands again, remember, it wasn't the bridge that carried you across. It was your courage, a quiet breath, then silence.